Welcome to the Serve Conscious podcast video version. 85 episodes, audio only. And finally, here I am for all the world to see, exposed and naked, with a visual component to this podcast. I don't really know how to explain why I chose to do this now and not 85 episodes ago. I guess I just finally decided I was willing to shave before recording and stare at my face for the long and grueling editing process. Fine, great. Let's do it. Let's take on the extra work. So I guess I'll introduce myself to this world of video podcast watchers. Basically, this podcast is about service, and every day it kind of asks that question over and over again in different contexts, because there are so many dimensions to service. For me, my experience with service is a professional one, where it was my job in the food and beverage industry, and it was a huge struggle as well. And I felt that it didn't have to be a huge struggle. I felt that it could actually provide me with a lot. And actually, it already was. I was just taking so much as well. So what's the difference? What can be done so that I can really thrive in this role and really feel like I'm growing and getting nourishment from it? And that's when I started bringing in meditation and mindfulness tools and other strategies for really mastering myself. And service became that place where I can master myself rather than just give myself away and get depleted. So I wanted to eventually share those tools with others because I acquired so much success from them. So that's what the Serve Conscious Project became, a place for others to learn from my trials and tribulations, and also learn from all the amazing guests I bring on that are super conscious people of service. And so we talk about professional service, but we also talk about any way service can show up in your life and the challenges of the service mindset. Because boy, are there challenges, right? And today we're going to look at the challenges of being selfless, and actually being selfless and trying to maintain that ideal is a dead-end road, really, because as you've probably learned from listening to this show, I believe in service not as just a constant one-way street of giving yourself away. It is a cycle. It is an exchange, a self-other continuum, basically. You give, but then also you get back. Now, you'll be getting back from the service exchange, from being able to serve and all the richness and growth and connection you get from it, but also from how you're funding yourself through this process, the support you give yourself, the practices you do to remain healthy and vital, how also you manage your mind and all the games it's going to play with you during this whole process of being human, really. I mean, not just in service. I mean, everywhere in life, our mind is going to be seemingly working against us. But with the right tools, we can get it on our side. And when it is, we become very, very powerful. Very, not like I have a big fancy job powerful, but actually our life is something that we are really an authority of and really feels like the life that we own, like our life is filled with purpose and meaning. A life of service should be purposeful, right? We might think that like, oh, service is really an opportunity to feel fulfilled. And yet it's just so unfulfilling a lot of the time, especially in Western society, where it is generally not appreciated and generally an industry that consists of a lot of jobs that do not seem dignified. But within that, within all those undignified jobs, there are little rivers of really dignified, powerful work that we can do within that job. And so we love exploring all those possibilities on this show, and today we're going to do just that by looking at where you might be too much on the side of selflessness and not enough on the side of selfishness. And by selfishness, if you're reacting to that word and thinking like, ooh, like I don't want to be selfish, then you need to hear this. If you're afraid of being selfish, then you need to hear this, because selfishness is also not what you think it is. It's a very skillful strategy to actually be able to be more giving to others. Because actually, truly powerful, potent service is not about being selfless, just giving yourself away until there's nothing left. It's actually about being generous. What is required of generosity? Inner fullness, having abundance, right? And traditionally, if you go into a household, especially a Mediterranean household, which I grew up in, generosity is a sign that we have so much to give. Like, it's no trouble. Like, it's not, you're not depleting us in any way. I have so much to give. I would like you to participate in that. And that's truly the mindset that you want to come to with service. Not, I'm going to sacrifice whatever it is I have to give for you. Because that's more, I suppose, dramatic and more biblical to do. There is a time and place for that. I will not argue with a well-placed sacrifice. But why? When you can give from a place of fullness, that option is available. Always, just so you know. And if you do feel a need to be self-sacrificing, look at what is driving that need. Is it just simply because you are so kind and virtuous? Or is it because you are dependent on the approval of others, or afraid of the disapproval of others, or afraid of not feeling worthy because you don't show up every time someone snaps their fingers? Now, in the service environment, professional service especially, you don't have that option a lot of the time to just say, like, no, I'm taking care of myself right now. That is totally understandable. Okay, like, you can't just be like, yeah, I've got to go, to the spa now. I don't have time to go get you the salt that you require or fix the tech problem that you are so struggling with. Me first, sorry guys. No, that is selfish and irresponsible as a service professional. But like, that is only one small part of service. That's like the tip of the iceberg, because there are so many areas of the workday and your life around your work life that involve opportunities for you to take care of yourself or just jump because someone else needs something, right? So now we're going to look at reclaiming whatever time you have available, whatever time really is ultimately yours. You're not obliged to give it away in order to take care of yourself. That might seem uncomfortable, and it might seem like you're letting people down, but trust me, this will feel really good ultimately at the end of the day. And you will have more to give when it is time to give. And here's the thing, when it is time to give, right? That time isn't all the time. It doesn't have to be all the time. Service, good service anyway, isn't about quantity. It's not about giving more at every opportunity. And sure, do that if you have resources to give, but it's actually about quality. This moment, that is the appropriate time to be of service, do you have the resources to serve? Actually, if you don't have the resources to serve, it will disrupt the quality of your service. So you failing to take care of yourself and take care of your own needs is still going to disrupt service. It's like, oh, I don't want to not show up for them. But actually you kind of already are not showing up for them 100%. Why not wait until you can by taking care of yourself first? People will appreciate you and what you offer if you take care of yourself first and provide for them from a place of greater fullness. Anyway, how often does someone, need something from someone else, from you? Sometimes too, I'll get someone to help me. But it turned out that they couldn't, really. But they did anyway. And they did a kind of compromised, scattershot job of helping me. And then I felt bad after because I didn't realize that they felt obligated and didn't actually have the resources to give at that moment. Has that ever happened to you, right? No one wants to be in an exchange like that. They want to be in an exchange where somebody is happy to help, happy to give, right? And then, of course, they might have been resentful because they thought I was making them or something. When I wasn't, they just have that obligation impulse. When someone needs me, I jump, right? So this can be made very uncomplicated when you have very clear boundaries about when you have something to give and when you don't. All right, before we get into strategies and practices for being more skillfully selfless. That will better amplify our service capacity. I want to look at some favorite identities that we like to wear, some archetypes of self-sacrifice, really. And I've certainly strapped these on over the years because they made me feel good and it kept things simple, but ultimately did lock me out of the service exchange properly, which means, actually taking care of myself and really what I need. And funny enough, these are all, identities, really. They're all like ideals, and they're all things that make the ego feel good. Like, oh, okay, I'm like ticking this box, and therefore I am worthy. I am, awesome. And that's kind of a selfish thing to do, right? To actually go against what is ideal for yourself and ultimately others simply to meet an egoic need, that's actually ultimately selfish. And that's the great irony of trying to be selfless, is that it ends up being selfish because we end up serving an ego identity rather than the needs of the moment, which must include you. But let's look at these because I think they're pretty relatable. I mean, we all can understand this impulse. Maybe we hear our mind telling these stories, or maybe we know people that are full throttle this archetype. The first of the favorites, I think, would be the martyr, which is somebody that feels like they need to self-sacrifice in order to be worthy. So it's like helping is great, but helping when it's really costing you something, that's even better, right? It's like if it doesn't involve sacrifice, then it's not you doing the best you can do to be of service, right? The martyr's ultimate dark fantasy is dying for the collective, right? Because that would be the most honorable thing that you can do. And martyrs can be really funny, though, because then they still ultimately want validation for their martyrdom activities, right? So if they sacrifice themselves, they want to let you know that they did. And there's that egoic need for the nectar back, right? So you can see that like the service exchange gets toxic when it goes one way, because then you need something back. You need that ego identity validated for being so selfless. But actually, when you're taking care of yourself, you don't need anything back. And that's when the true selflessness can happen. And if you really watch a martyr operate, then that's what you'll see. Because only for so long will a martyr just be like sacrificing themselves, and they'll become so depleted that they'll need something back. But they'll seek it from others, not themselves, because they feel owed, right? So that's a really dramatic example of the self-sacrificing archetype. And, there's martyr elements in these other archetypes, and actually some of these cross over and crossfade a bit. But I thought I would separate them just for the sake of just seeing different contexts of these behaviors happen. Another example is the stoic or the soloist, really. They're similar, I think. And that's just this imaginary self we create that has no needs. And I hesitate to use the word stoic here because I know it's like a much deeper, richer practice. But I would just say the idea of stoic that we carry in, the modern world of I am invincible. I don't have emotions. I don't have needs. I'm not affected by negative experiences. I'm this stone wall, right? And the soloist is just more this person that's dramatically committed to independence. And I certainly wore this hat often, thinking I don't need help from anybody. And I think a lot of us can identify with not needing help, even community or support. And sometimes I've even gone through phases of my life where I thought I didn't need friends or relationships too. That comes from, I think, protecting ourselves from the vulnerability of actually being in relationships with others, usually. That can feed into the service role. It's I only want to be seen, offering value, and I'm afraid to actually receive support in return, or just in any place that I might need it, because that will compromise how unbelievably awesome and self-sufficient I am, right? And so both of these, rigid commitments to just not needing anything will ultimately crumble and lead to burnout in some way. And then we got the people pleaser. The people pleaser will never want to ruffle any feathers, never want to compromise a relationship. All they want to do is be loved. They'll never take a stand when their boundaries are being utterly violated, and they always just want to be the good guy, right? People pleasers are lovely, and this aspect of yourself needs to be honored and really, really appreciated, because this is a great thing to do, is to want to have great relationships. But a people pleaser defends the positivity of a relationship at all costs, meaning they will tolerate just about anything just to keep things on the up and up. So there can be a problem with an authenticity of relationships. And a people pleaser won't say no. They won't take care of themselves. They don't care about anything except the needs that involve others loving them, basically. Let's go back a bit too and look at the positives of every trait. A martyr cares about others tremendously and really wants to give all they can give. That is valuable. Honor what the mind is trying to do with that identity. It really wants to make sure that you are showing up with the highest integrity. It's just gone extreme. So, first of all, honor that trait in you and then pull it back. Pull it back to filling your tank. Same with the stoic and soloist. Your mind really wants you to be strong and resilient. Your mind really wants you to be self-sufficient. That's a good thing. Honor those qualities. Honor the positive ones. And then look at what's not getting the support it needs within you. So that goes for everything. I do a lot of this work with people, in teaching mindfulness and empowerment, where a lot of the times we're just like looking at negative traits and hoping to get rid of them. But actually, every negative trait has a really, really valuable edge to it. And actually honoring the valuable edge will dissolve the negativity, the negative aspect of that trait, the part that's causing you so many problems, much more readily than just trying to remove or get rid of it and replace it with something better. And this is almost every spiritual or self-cultivation practice that looks at, like transforming and bettering ourselves. Anyone that's effective and anyone that I think is of value, that's how they're looking at ourselves. We're actually befriending ourselves. We're not simply like fixing ourselves like a broken vehicle. Oh, speaking of fixer, let's look at the fixer. The fixer believes that every problem is their own. So other people's problems, that's their burden to carry. They got to fix those. And that's a really egoic need, because we feel good when we fix other people's problems, right? And we feel maybe even that we're like better than them a little bit. We might like think like we're being selfless by helping them, but actually we could be like subtly one-upping them, right? And also we are communicating very overtly that we don't trust them to fix it themselves. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter how much it annoys other people, because we're so committed to being a fixer. And that's another example of selflessness that's actually selfish, because we're ignoring what other people actually need in order to serve an ego identity, right? So really, really pay attention to that. And it can come up in subtle ways. I've talked about this. It can happen just because someone's feeling a strong or sad emotion, and we want to do whatever we can to make that go away and fix that negative emotion, rather than just kind of being with them and being compassionate and allowing it to flow and showing understanding. It's like, no, let me tell you a joke. And I'll cheer you up, and I'll be the person that cheered you up. That's a fixer. It's an emotional fixer. It's not just going around like being like, oh, you're out of money? Here, let me manage your finances. It's not like so complex sometimes. Look for little avenues of fixer in you. And you know what? We all have it, because we're all designed to fix problems. So when you are feeling compelled to fix a problem, really good to be mindful of the intention that's driving that. What's really driving your need to fix? Is it truly to help, or is it to feel like you are the problem solver? The last one is the most complex. It actually folds in a lot of these other identities, and that's the codependent. You might have heard this from relational psychology. It has to do with relationships especially. And all of these do, of course, because, all these behavioral traits are dependent on how we're relating to others, right? But this is very much having to do with how we entangle with others. Often, like a codependent relationship doesn't always form in the service environment, because often they are the result of years and years and years of dynamic forming between two people. It's most commonly used to describe intimate relationships, but it does show up in short-term relationships. And someone that's prone to codependency, they report doing this too. And like codependently prone people are prone to finding this trait showing up in their service life. And that is the tendency to help when help is not needed. And I guess I've described this as being maybe a feature of the other archetypes too, like the fixer, like they're trying to help when help is not needed. You can be a fixer and a codependent at the same time, that's for sure. But it's generally helping others that you shouldn't be helping. Like actually, like in relationships, you're helping somebody in a way that's making them helpless and continuing to enable behavioral patterns that are really not serving them. Like, for example, a codependent partner might have like an addict as a partner, and they continue to enable their addiction. And they feel good. They feel like the caregiver. And the person with the addiction continues to be able to indulge their habits. But it's not a good dynamic because you're not really serving them. You're serving your need to continue to be a caregiver, actually, rather than what this person truly needs. And so the codependent depends on the dynamic remaining. I'm the caregiver, they're the person needing my care. And again, look at the positive here. It's really wonderful to want to give care. Most of us don't care about anyone, about ourselves. And that's probably why we're so worried about being selfish, because we don't want to be one of those people that don't care about others. But caring about others is a natural human trait, and it happens when we care about ourselves. It happens more when we care about ourselves because we have more to give. But codependents are so committed to being depended on that they aren't willing to allow the freedom and autonomy of the other person. That includes their autonomy to make mistakes and, learn their own lessons. No, they want to be the one in control of the whole situation. So there's a really complex, strange, subtly controlling aspect of a codependent dynamic. And this can happen in like subtle ways in short-term relationships where we smother the situation a bit and try to give too much, try to feel like we're taking care of everything and not leaving the person we're serving any room for their own autonomy and learning. And this is, tricky territory because some people want everything taken care of. And sometimes it's not considered good service when we take our hands off the wheel and let people make their own mistakes, right? And have their own journey. But other times, I just really think we put too much burden on ourselves to control every aspect of the outcome and feel like we absolutely have our arms tightly around people when maybe we don't have to. So how to address all of this? Well, firstly, if you are in a service situation and it feels like a strain, like you feel something uncomfortable about it, something unpleasant, and as you practice mindfulness in service, you become better and better at acknowledging how you feel. First of all, notice that you feel something. Most of us don't, right? Because if we are so selfless and so wrapped up and entangled with the needs of others rather than our own, then we're not going to be thinking about how we feel. But to be of service, you really need to look at how you feel. Because how you feel is going to affect the service exchange anyway. And it is going to affect the relationship anyway. Maybe on subtle levels, but it is. So you need to acknowledge how you feel. Notice it. What am I feeling? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? Do I not feel anything at all? When you have a strong feeling of discomfort or strain from service, what you're experiencing is a need of some sort. That's how your human vessel communicates to you. Your whole mind and body and its general health, well-being, and integrity has a constant constellation of needs that it requires support of, and it communicates it by feeling and sensation when something needs attention. So, look at that. Look at that strain that's occurring. What's the mind telling you? Is the mind telling you a story? What's behind that story? Start to have a look at these things. Start to have a look at when you're uncomfortable and strained. And see what you can offer yourself. Now, this doesn't mean drop everything and shower yourself with pleasures until that uncomfortable feeling goes away. This is not about making uncomfortable feelings go away. Mindfulness is never that. It's about acknowledging them and curiously, openly investigating them and embracing them as well, because it's valuable information. And it's not a drama. It's not anything bad happening. It's just useful information. So when that comes in, have a look at it, whether in the moment or whenever you get a chance to. And it's kind of more advanced to be able to properly investigate something while you're in conversation, while you're doing things. But see how much you can be aware of that and also whatever conversation you're in. But otherwise, whenever you get a chance, have a look at how you're feeling. Are you feeling depleted? Are you feeling strained? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling tight? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling hurt? There's a lot of feelings we can feel. And when you're feeling something really uncomfortable, then be compassionate to yourself. As you get into this habit of being supportive to yourself, being a friend to yourself, the less we're going to need it from others. And the less we're going to be resentful of them for not giving us something back, even though we've been throwing ourselves at them for the whole relationship that we've known them for. So self-compassion is really a matter of talking to ourselves better and feeling towards ourselves better. What do I mean by that? Well, everything we experience inside is responded to a certain way by us. Often we reject a feeling because we don't like it. We push it away. We want to feel something better. Or we cling on to it because it's good and we don't want it to go away, right? There's a certain response to feelings. We don't just feel passively. So when you are feeling a sense of struggle, we all know what that feels like, then feel back at it with support. Bring that caring feeling that you bring to others to yourself as well. And don't worry, you're not going to deplete that resource of care. Care is infinite, but we need it too, so break yourself off a piece of that. And when you do this, then whatever it is you need in that moment might not be totally met or satisfied, but it's getting attention. And when it gets attention, then you will feel a lot more supported and you'll feel a lot more energized and you'll feel a lot better about yourself. And say kind things to yourself. You have to. You spend all day saying polite, at least, things to others. Start at least with saying polite things to yourself rather than negative things, right? Most of us, it's just negativity. Say kind things to yourself, especially when you're struggling. That's when you need it most, and that's when your mind is the most negative. You've got to disrupt that cycle with kindness. You start by acknowledging the situation in this process. Identify a moment of struggle and call it out. Say, I'm struggling right now, and I probably need something. May I give myself what I need? And if the need becomes clear, honor that need. Say, it's good that I need this, because all humans need this. I'm honoring that I need this right now. It's a dignified need. Just doing that is huge for yourself. You will have so much more to give everyone else. When you get into the habit of that, you're going to get into the habit of feeling more fulfilled. And as you get more fulfilled inside, you're going to have more to give others. And that's just like in the moment stuff. Outside of work, you want to be giving yourself care in every way. What does that mean? Does that mean constantly going to the spa? Does that mean always doing these treatments on yourself? No, it means doing activities that are nourishing to your health and well-being, of course, like meditating, like movement. And actually what you're not doing too, like for example, when you first get out of bed, don't just grab your phone and see what messages everyone's sending to you. Because that's that outward directed giving away energy that we're starting our day with, like right away. That's creating a pattern of doing that throughout the day. If you give yourself away from the moment you open your eyes, then you're more likely to in the moment too. When the day starts, that is the time for you. Because the rest of the day, people are going to be pulling at you and you'll have so many opportunities to be generous. In the morning, that's about you. Have your meditation. Do some journaling. Write out things that you're grateful for. That'll give you more fullness. That'll give you more sense of inner happiness that isn't dependent on others. Even if you write down something that involves someone else, that gratitude feeling is yours. And that's a rich feeling that will serve you and uplift you. Write about, how you want the day to go. What do you want from the day? What do you want? Not what do other people want. What do you want? And that could just be, I hope I contribute to the happiness of others. Fine. But it's got to be something you want. Start establishing what you want in your reflections every day. That is really important. And then do things that are good for you. Do things that are meaningful to you before you go into work. Read a book that is meaningful to you. Do a course that is meaningful to you. Engage in a hobby that is meaningful to you. You will be amazed at how much better at service this makes you. Trust me. And then, throughout the day, you'll have all kinds of things pop up that you can address more skillfully too. Like, for example, if you are serving and you're finding yourselves wanting something in return, and I might have told you that this is a problem for you, right? This is like a problem to need something in return because we're not giving enough of it to ourselves, right? But if you see that happening, that's not a sign to say, oh, I'm so selfish. Oh, I'm such a dysfunctional person of service because I'm needing something in return. No. Even if it's an egoic need, even if you need validation in response, behind all of those egoic needs are real human needs. You need to matter. You need significance. You need your life to be meaningful. It's taking the form of an egoic need of wanting validation from others, but it's a real, true, honorable need that can be dignified. So rather than casting out the ego mind, honor the need that it's pointing to. And when you do that, again, you'll find the ego is thrashing less because the need's getting honored by you. And you won't need others to indulge it so much the more you honor the need. Trust me, this is totally game-changing, totally game-changing. It doesn't matter how selfish you find your mind being in the moment. When you honor what it's grasping at, it will settle. And then one other thing you can do, I think this is kind of related. For some reason, this came to me today as a good companion to this practice, is every day just commit to bring as much awareness to one thing that you do. Bring your fullest of presence to it, and you'll drift. Bring it back wherever you can. No matter how simple it is. It could be opening a door. It could be polishing your glasses. It could be how you speak. And just bring your awareness to it and watch it happen. And I think this is really valuable because it's dialing you into the process. And it's dialing you into yourself. And it creates a lot of reverence for what you do as you pay attention to the details of them more. And it brings a lot of honor into it. And you're looking at how you do it, not what others might think of it, but just how you do it. It's a very powerful, unself-conscious self-consciousness, if that makes sense. So you're not worried about how you look. You're just curious about how you do things. And you're developing a more intimate relationship with yourself by doing this, without worrying about whether you're showing up for others or not. You're just paying attention to yourself. And this is a practice in, tea ceremony, which I'm really, really passionate about, where you're looking at small actions all the time, doing them over and over and over again, and really considering how you do them to be so important to the whole quality of your life. Because just in paying attention to and refining that small action, everything else that you do gets elevated. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? So this is really valuable because I think we spend a lot of time worried about what others are thinking rather than really paying attention to what it is we're doing and how we're doing it. And if you're worried this is going to make you self-conscious, the opposite occurs. It's very magical. So yeah, bring mindfulness into the small actions you perform throughout the day. And you'll begin to develop a greater and greater appreciation for them. Because you're not looking at what you think about them. You're just looking at them physically happening. You have these 5 senses that can observe the world without telling a story about it. And when you do that, you'll see greater and greater detail in what you do. And you'll feel also that you're on a path of self-mastery rather than a path of self-sacrifice, so to speak. And you'll start to notice all the little details of how you serve others and how you relate to others. You'll be able to refine those details to better serve others. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, thank you so much. Check out the website, www.serveconscious.com, for more free content. Subscribe to the mailing list. Subscribe to iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube if you like and subscribe below. Get this content shot to your feed whenever it comes off the production line. So thank you so much again. Take care.